Hello friends, I have to tell you all about C60 Purple Power. Since I started using C60, which may be the most powerful antioxidant known to man, I feel amazing, and you should too. I have more energy, I sleep better, and I've lost over 30 pounds. But please go check it out for yourself. It has so many amazing benefits. Just click the link in the description or visit c60purplepower.com and use coupon code KNOWLEDGE10 to get 10% off your order plus free shipping. That's C60 Purple Power. Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Tonight, my guest is Dollie, Eanna-Dawn Jensen. Before I bring her on, I want to tell you about how you can protect yourself from harmful EMF radiation with EMF Harmonized. They offer protection from harmful electromagnetic frequencies for your phone, computer or tablet, and your routers. I have one on my computer, my cell phone, my routers. It's a little disc. It goes directly on your devices. I've already noticed a difference. Unfortunately, I do spend hours near my computer and phone every day. I often feel these negative effects of the electromagnetic frequencies, but after a few days of using their strips, I really don't feel as groggy. I sleep a lot better at night, and I have more energy even after spending hours near my computer or phone. You can also get their awesome bracelets. They offer the same protection as the strips. The products were created by a mechanical engineer with 3 decades of experience in EMFs and telecommunication. Just use the link in the description to check out EMF Harmonize and get yourself protected today. Please also subscribe to Forbidden Knowledge News on lbry.tv. It's our official backup channel. We have a brand new show called Beyond Classified. It's exclusively on Rokfin. It's an amazing new uncensored platform. You really want to check that out. I've been talking about it a lot. We're trying to get everyone to just move to Rokfin. There's tons of amazing independent content creators there already with us. So go check that out. The link for that is also in the description. You can get tickets right now to Forbidden Knowledge News Con 2021. It's going to be April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We're going to have 12 awesome presenters. Go to forbiddenknowledge.news. Check out this year's awesome lineup. We're going to be doing some promotional shows in the upcoming days to let you guys know what the presenters will be talking about. It's going to be a really amazing event, and you don't want to miss it. Last year's was awesome. This year is going to be even better. Finally, guys, we could really use your help right now. Last month, our podcast provider, Spreaker, cut off our monetization because of an error that they made. Now we're out of an entire month's of revenue until next month. Hate to do it, but I have to ask for donations. It should be all straightened out, and we should be fine by next month. It would be greatly appreciated if you guys could help out in any way. If you'd like to make a donation, those links are also in the description. No matter what, we're going to keep bringing you these shows every day like we always do. Today I want to welcome Dollie Eanna-Dawn Jensen. She is a host, speaker, independent researcher of ancient civilizations. She is an astro-anomalies theorist, public speaker, author, director, and film documentary producer. She will be hosting a radio show once a week on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network and has a section on Forbidden Knowledge TV called Raw Talk Sessions. She has affiliates with Billy Carson and others around the world. Dollie, welcome. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, Chris Matthew. Hello, I'm doing really well. Thank you for inviting me onto your Forbidden Knowledge News.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on. I've been looking forward to talking to you because we're going to be talking about some of my favorite things tonight, our hidden history, who and what we really are, where we come from, and where we could possibly be going in our future. There's so much happening right now. I think humanity is learning a lot about where we come from. There's so many revelations coming through, especially with disclosure. I mean, there's some interesting things happening. I don't trust what's coming out of the media or government, but still it's interesting coming out of them right now. You also are associated with one of my favorite people, Billy Carson, working on Forbidden Knowledge. That's completely awesome. I've had Billy on a few times. Tonight, I want to start with what really got you started down your path and interested in our hidden reality.
Well, I started off from humble beginnings actually in the very heart of England. I grew up in the West Midlands, which is a working class middle part of the industry of England. And I was brought up in a normal working class family. But from a young age, I experienced things out of the norm and what I now know as astral travel constantly from birth and communicating with ETs and just interacting on a higher consciousness for many, many years and being on a journey that has led me to some amazing discoveries and people and places. And I believe nothing is by coincidence. So I've got to work with cool people and been boots on the ground and done research up at Avebury and Stonehenge and places like that, and work with people such as Billy Carson, and I'm making documentaries. But my early beginnings were very, very humble and very basic knowledge and education. But it was never quite enough for me. We've heard this label of the Indigo Kids and the Star Kids. And it's true, many of us, we don't sit in those boxes that like to be programmed and shipped and shaped into certain forms of the norm. To fit into society, we get called the troublemakers and the people that mix it all up and make it all so colourful. So I got thrown out of school actually, and then got placed into a governmental program, which was a little bit like the very, very early Big Brother before Big Brother was even out. So this was way back in the very, very early 90s. And I lived in a house with 7 other individuals that all led very interesting lives. And yeah, we were monitored in that house. And I've just led a very interesting life all round where things have been interesting and I've known about it. I've known what's going on all the time.
That's very interesting. You mentioned government programs. Would you be able to kind of further enlighten us on what that entailed? What were you involved with?
I was involved in a governmental work institutional program for misguided kids, misspent youth, just for some direction. And I was placed in and asked if I wanted to live in a house with 6 other individuals and work placement and just get on with life. And I did. But from the moment that I stepped into that, life became interesting.
That is very interesting. Now, I'd love to hear about some of your earlier contact experiences and extraterrestrial contact, if you could share that with us, some of those experiences.
I've had contact from a very early age. One of my earliest memories I can remember from 3, 4, and it was a slipping through a dimension. As I know now, it was slipping through the astral worlds. But when I was very, very small, the feeling I used to get with that, it was almost like slipping through time, slipping through a sand timer. We hear of the Sandman and dreams of sand. It's quite a coincidence how all this kind of fits together with knowledge. And I used to slip through sands of time when I was very small and have interactions with beings who would approach me from my window. And the only way I could describe them when I was tiny was that they was in wheels that were like bicycle wheels, and that their faces wouldn't look human. I was very scared of them when I was very small. Yeah.
Now,
But
do you
that
know,
subsided.
did they continue to make contact with you as you got older?
Yes, they would interact with me through the bizarrest ways. I would have interactions where I would have missing time. I would wake up in locations in my home. My parents would find me missing quite regularly. They would put a search party out for me, and I would be missing, and then I would appear in their home in a bizarre place. I think one incident I was found in a cupboard, huddled up underneath some clothes, and people had been looking for me for a good 20, 30 minutes. And, so little things like that, um, where I've gone missing and time has been misplaced. But mainly through my teens, it kind of left me alone as such. I was kind of finding myself, what I was interested in. I think as teens, we experiment and we find out, but there was always um, a deep knowledge. I took religion at school, I took religious education, and I took information technology, and I excelled in those levels. So when computer technology was first out in the 80s, I'm talking about the old box systems, the really old, where you actually physically do things on a computer and do all the programming and stuff on it, the hard stuff. So I used to do that, and I excelled in that. So um, I was kind of off limits till I was about 17, 18, and then everything started getting a little bit bizarre. Mm.
So at that point, the entities that you were interacting with, do you remember the interactions? Were they positive
Mm.
interactions?
Oh, yeah. I'd see ghosts, and I'd astral travel naturally every night. It was a natural thing for me to do. I was always intuitive, creative,
Now, what
clairvoyant.
beside you said you saw ghosts? You also saw
Mm,
extraterrestrial entities and
mm,
communicated with them.
mm.
Could you describe the entities that you were communicating with?
As in ghosts
No, the
or
ETs.
ETs?
Yes, the
The
ETs.
ETs, I found out much later on after some regression that the ETs were grey, that they were Zeta, that they were grey to start out with. They were little grey beings. And they tried to mask themselves when they first met me in regression. It was really interesting what was brought up, because in the regression, it was brought up that they appeared as a dragon. And I used to live on a ninth floor story apartment block. And this dragon would come through into the window. And I must have blocked it out because I didn't remember this. This only resurfaced in regression. And the dragon would try and get me to be fearful of it. And obviously, when I wasn't fearful of it in the regression, the dragon turned into a grey, a little tiny grey. It transformed from a dragon into a grey and then kind of interacted with me and asked me to go with it, which I did comply. I can remember that. And I can remember looking out of that 9th-story block, looking down, and it was very, yeah, it was a long way down.
That's very interesting.
Mm,
The screen memories that they could have projected
mm,
on you. Now,
yeah.
you in your message, you told me about that you can activate your Merkaba.
Mm.
For those that aren't familiar, could you talk a little bit about what that is and what is Merkaba activation for you?
Merkaba is our the words Merkaba actually means light body vehicle, and it is our natural portal. It's our own divine spaceship, if you like. That's how I like to put it, because when it's spread completely out, it actually does look like a spaceship if you want it to. You can stretch it or you can make it really tiny, and it's connected to your consciousness and your body and your oversoul. And all three levels of the soul actually has to work the Merkaba to move it. It's a little bit like this that I've got on my hand. The 5-pointed star actually is a little bit like the Da Vinci. That is our Merkaba. It's the male and the female triangles that are together, which brings the esoteric knowledge into it. So when these two triangles are spinning at high force and we use our own chi, this is how I do it. I kind of use my own body torus and then I flush it through my central systems. And by using a breathing meditation activation, I can naturally go into this meditative state where I can shift my frequency and move through dimensions. That's the only way I can explain it, is in tubes of light, very, very fast. And I've
Now,
been able to meet star family this way.
would you say it's your consciousness? I don't know if it's leaving the body or just expanding and connecting with the collective of what's out there
Mm,
to kind of interact with these beings. Do you think that's what's happening?
yes, exactly what's happening. It's almost like a conduit. It's like a little aerial signal to the soul, if you like. And we can literally, that's how I see it. And I can travel, but I have to live in this earthly shell. So I can literally move this like a conduit and control it through frequency.
Now, seeing as that we do have all these locked up and hidden abilities, I
Mm,
want to go back to our ancient past. There
mm,
are tons of theories that I've covered on this show alone that have to do with human origins. Where did we come from? Were we modified by some off-planet race? Were we evolved from, some kind of fish or something like the evolution says? I'd like to get your thoughts. Do you think that the
mm,
Sumerian mythos is accurate with the Space Brothers in Enki coming down and
mm.
modifying humans? These hominids that eventually turned into humans.
There's something to it, isn't there? And this is the thing, this is the question that we're all asking now, because this information has now resurfaced again in this timeline that we're in now. It's been sleeping for all that time, and now in our timeline, it's woken back up in our DNA. So something has woken up to make us question our cosmic origins. And I really do believe that the acceleration and the use of such technologies that of the internet and different satellites, and we have accelerated in communication and knowledge and Wi-Fi. It has kind of ramped our Wi-Fi up a little bit, because as beings on this planet, we are forever changing as well and adapting to every timeline that we are in. So our bodies are having to adapt and change to what we are being exposed to. So I think, in a sense, all these technologies have actually woken up something within our DNA that is already there in that design that has activated memories. And we are literally finding this stuff now because we're remembering where to find it. And we're putting it all into context, libraries, we're tearing it apart, we're questioning it, we're questioning everything, every theory that comes along, we question in depth. And a lot of the work has not changed from the translations from the original texts, from scholars that were writing in the very early 1800s and 1900s. And a lot of people bash Sitchin for his work. And you've got people like Samuel Kramer in the early 1900s, excellent work, but wrote exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
But
that.
because we have someone that is involved with a mystery school and a secret society of esoteric knowledge like Freemasonry, which all comes into this very, very deep, ancient esoteric knowledge that's not just from Egypt, that stems way, way back into Mesopotamia, Babylonian, Akkadian times, Assyria, and the Assyrian empires, the very, very foundations and cradles of this flourishing empire that just appeared overnight, and they can't date it.
Right.
The scholars and the scientists and the academics can't date it because they haven't got a date. They can't answer these questions because it's way, way older than the timelines that we're actually being given. I do believe that the timelines have been so distorted and that the truth has been so covered up that it's kind of hard what to take as credible and not credible. And this is where we all have to go on this individual search and kind of unlock the keys, each one for ourself, for the self, for higher wisdom.
Yeah, that's definitely well said. Um, Now, when it comes to this ancient story of Enlil and Enki, this Sumerian story, um,
Mm,
it seems like the Bible is kind of like a reversal of that. That
yeah.
Enlil is portrayed in the Old Testament as Yahweh, and Enki
Mm,
as this fallen angel. When in
mm,
reality, the Sumerian, it was more of like the opposite. Enlil is kind of playing this
mm,
god, but as more of an evil type character that
mm,
doesn't like his creation, and Enki's more of a compassionate
mm,
type
mm.
that did like it, that wanted to humanity to thrive. Now, do you think that there is any historical accuracy in these stories, that these beings were real and that they did come down and
I've lost you for a moment.
all right, now we're back. Sorry about that,
Hey,
guys. We had a little disconnection error.
technical.
Yeah, technical issues, but we're back. So, Dolly, I was asking you about Enlil and Enki, the story, the
Mm,
Sumerian tablet story. I was saying, how the Bible seems to be a reversal of that story, where Enlil is
mm,
portrayed in the Old Testament as Yahweh, as God, and Enki basically as a fallen angel. And in the original story is kind of reverse, where Enlil is this, kind of spiteful creator that doesn't like humans as his creation, and Enki's more compassionate, wants humans to thrive. Do you think this is an accurate story? Do you think these characters actually existed?
I do think these characters did exist. I do think these two brothers did exist because we've got evidence and proof, and we've got names, and we've got translations that there was two brothers that existed and that ruled part of Mesopotamia over there. I've seen the king's lists, which is fascinating, by the way, in the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford. So tiny. How they wrote all the king's lists on there is amazing. But their names are on there and they do appear on there. And this is the thing with these two brothers, is that they are portrayed as kind of a good and bad and a good and bad. They are like mirror reflections of each other. And there's parts of this epic tale where they are constantly bickering, making up, agreeing, disagreeing, but they are sharing domains. People forget that they were working in a collaboration as such, kind of all together all the time. And parts of the history and depictions that we see, as in, oh, Enlil's good, then he's bad. It's just depictions of character, of what was actually going on at the time. From the creation tablets of what I've read and understood, um, Enlil was quite annoyed at Enki that he'd gone behind his back and created this creation. He was absolutely really cross, and it was against all of the cosmic laws, really. And he was saying that you can't do this, and that he'd left him no other option, but he had to go back and speak to his father in Nibiru, and they had to discuss it with the rest of the cosmic councils. And there was a whole council held about the creation that had been made with these humanoids, us humans that had been created, the creation. There was such a big hoo-ha about it with these two brothers. So, of course, Enki was terribly upset that his brother had gone against him to his father behind his back. So, we've got kind of conflict constantly from the beginning, because these two brothers, they wanted to rule the earth and skies. One was Lord of Air, one was Lord of Earth, Lord of Waters, Lord of Sky, Lord of Air. It's that they ruled the earth, the domains, the seas, the skies, and it was just bitter conflicts continuously, and they were represented as different representations, as either the horned beast, the bull, or the dragon, or the serpent, as in the bloodlines. The lions are connected to the royal house lines and the bloodlines and star constellations and planets. These guys owned and ruled planets.
And you mentioned Nibiru. Uh, I'm assuming, based on the interpretation, your interpretation, Nibiru is a planet that these beings were from. I know they have different interpretations. Some believe it's just a place that was on Earth. Do you think it was a planet?
This is another thing. We have different meanings in different text spellings. We can have the same word that is used in a different line that can have a different meaning depending how and what it's used with. So it could have been that Nibiru was also a place on Earth, as Eden was and Edom was. So we've got two places. The land of horned beasts, the land of no return, we've now found out is Antarctica. Right across the continent. They knew about this. They knew and observed the earth and had observed it in depth for thousands of years. thousands. This wasn't just done overnight. They were here and studied all the cycles in the earth and the biological function and everything on the planet, the grids, the ley lines, the energy sources, what they needed for their crafts, living. And they also brought a lot of seeds here as well.
Now, when you think about it that way, the technology that they brought, must have been extremely advanced. And when you look at the ancient megalithic structures, such as, of course, pyramids, the structures in Peru, all around the world, basically these similar megalithic and monolithic structures that are found. Do you think that these progenitors, these Anunnaki, were co-creators or kind of gave humans knowledge on how to do this?
I think they did have some human help. They must have done back then, because that was the whole idea of creating the creation, was to take over the work from the younger gods, the younger Ijiji that had got tired of doing the work and mining. So that would make total sense that humans would have been educated in such things as scientific knowledge, mathematics, astronomy, mechanical works, technology, sacred geometry. It's yeah,
Yeah, that's a
absolutely. And
now. Go ahead.
I think they used some kind of laser technology, high advanced laser technology. And I always get this image of a little bit like 3D printers that we've got today, how they can build things. And
Right.
yeah, they literally had high beam weapons that they could just carve into anything. They could melt the compounds and shape and transmute, you know,
Well, I was
using
going to ask you
alchemy.
about the technology being used. It seems like it's was far more advanced than what we have now, but completely different. More, I would think, energy or frequency based.
Mm,
I think possibly sound may have been used a lot that
yes,
we're finding out
absolutely as
now.
well.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Mm.
The sound
I
and
think
frequency
everything
technology.
is kind of combined, that they would have used sound frequency. Let's take Stonehenge, for instance. I've stood up there, I've studied the stones up there, and been up there and listened and slept up there. And literally you can hear the rocks ring. They make a noise. They're not, it doesn't feel like they're completely solid. They almost ring like a bell, a little bit. And the stones at Avebury as well, they are the same. And those are in alignment with Stonehenge. So certain materials were used for certain locations, depending on geographical location and like extreme weather and things like that. So different temples and different places would have been used out of different compounds, what suited that geographical location. They would have made the best use out of the mining facilities. Like in England, we have a lot of copper mining and tin mining and gold as well. And a lot of this is used for spacecraft, right? It kind of makes sense now to all the mining that has the ancient mining that took place, because it wasn't just for gold, it was for other minerals and compounds and all kinds of precious stones and jewels and metals. They literally hoarded this stuff back.
And what do you think about the Giza pyramid? To me, that seems like a giant piece of technology of some
Oh
sort, whether
yeah.
it's for energy or some other type of purposes, some type
Mm.
of spiritual purpose. What do you think?
I think again, it's combined. It was chosen specifically. The guys who chose this place, they knew exactly what they were doing about location. They knew about timelines. They knew about energy. They knew about they had an overall global view for it to be um collectively joined up to other sacred sites across the planet. Some kind of technology must have been present. And I almost feel like some of the obelisks as well, if you look at them, on the very top, they've got a little crystal, a conductor. So that would make sense. Like if you see our Wi Fi towers today, our masts, they're these little masts. Could those not have just been ancient masts located, you know, all over the planet? I think like this, you know, are these conductors, was it one big, huge, interactive from place to place? It seems so. And near every site, from um, from Stonehenge to Giza, all over the globe, there's water ports. There's always a water port nearby. And if you look at NASA and the actual structures of these platforms, take a look, go and look at some pictures of NASA and the platforms, what they've got these rockets on. And they've got the same shapes and the same funnels and water for steam and water and rocket fuel to run down these same shapes on these platforms, on these big spaceports. And they're literally located globally. You can see them.
That's very interesting.
Mm.
Now, what about the Sphinx? There's theories that the Sphinx wasn't a lion; that it used to be possibly some other depiction before, a jackal or some other entity. What do you think the Sphinx was originally?
Mm. Me being a woman, I'm not just going to say because I'm a woman, but I actually do think it was a woman in some kind of way. I'm thinking it was a mixed sex being because when you look at all of the depictions of Sphinx, it's always this breasted, lion clawed woman that's kind of dominant looking with a pharaoh head. Or we have a very, very beautiful woman, a goddess. Many goddesses are represented as sphinxes, taking on the royal symbol with the lion body and feet, and then the royal head and the wings, of course, for flight. So a lot of it has a lot of esoteric symbolism in it. There's a lot of symbolism in it because it had to represent something of status and it had to be globally known by every culture. But I
Now,
think it was a woman, possibly Inanna.
okay, you said it was possibly Inanna. That's very interesting. Could you explain a
Isis,
little bit more?
Ishtar.
Yeah, why would you think it'd be ISIS?
Because she has been so uh, covered up in the whole story and the whole creation story and the stories of Isis and Ishtar is very, very similar to the same stories of Inanna and her descent into the underworld and there's a huge connection with Inanna. And I think this woman, Inanna, had appeared and again been represented by just many different names and representations throughout her life, as we do naturally as human beings. We start off as babies, then become a teen, and then she would have been a young woman, and then a lover, and so on and so on. But the names would have been with her in different representations.
Now, when you look at some of the physical evidence that we found in modern times for, I guess, anomalous entities or species, we look at the elongated skulls, you look at giant bones that we found. Do you think that these are ancient connections to some of these gods, that these gods could have had these
Yes.
elongated skulls?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I, when we look at the creation story in itself, and if we take Genesis, for instance, and we know how flawed it is, but the word in itself is Genesis, Genovisis. And when we start to break it apart, the very first lines has the first clue. And it says, God created man in his own image. So God looks like us then. So we can say a man's always been a man, we've never changed. And this is where the Darwin theory comes in, and I like to argue it because a monkey is a monkey and a man is a man. And for thousands of years, we haven't changed. And if that evolutionary jump had happened from apes to cavemen to now the modern day man, then apes would have died out a long time ago, along with the caveman. They Caveman doesn't exist today, but we have the common man. But we still have all these species. So it doesn't kind of add up. So somewhere along the lines, we were genetically manipulated to look like our creators. And some of these beings, I've heard them described as literally between uh, 12 to 14 foot tall. And the tales of the Nephilim in itself is Anunnaki based, with the Ajiji themselves being tired and of the toil that they were on, stationed on Mars under the rule of Marduk. And there was great conflict on Mars where they wanted to be part of the earth because they heard all of the things that were going on here. There was a creation, there were beautiful women, there was food, there was gold, there was temples in abundance. Hey, everybody's having a good time, you know. And these gods, they which are the younger gods, the Ijiji just basically means younger Anunnaki. So they are the younger of the gods. So these gods were kind of in educational transitional phases themselves. They were still learning. And they came here and did take the earth women, apparently so, and according to the Bible as well, which turned into a giant race being birthed upon the planet, which then we have the tales of Goliath and all that,
And you
and
mentioned
giants.
the Ajiji
Mm,
on Mars. Do you think that
mm,
Mars was destroyed by some kind of ancient weapon, possibly a nuclear blast or something? That's why there's seemingly no life there at this time?
mm, mm. Well, in the ancient records, in some scriptures, it is mentioned that the Anunnaki had tried several times to um, reflourish and tried to replenish Mars and reactivate it. There was volcanoes that had been nuclear activated to try and get some kind of atmosphere, which they were successful for a little while. They said that. And they did start to grow things and rains, and they did get life started for a short period of time, and then it dwindled because of what was going on with the planet itself and the galactic races and yeah.
Now, I think when you look at modern day disclosure, ufology, and you look back at these ancient stories and these tales of these, the
Mm,
Sumerian space brothers and all these ancient gods, it seems like there is so much spirituality and a spiritual aspect
mm,
to this, a magical aspect, which probably was just a form of technology to them. And I think that's the missing link that we're missing for
mm,
modern ufology today, is that link between consciousness, spirituality, and these beings, because they, if these tablets and these old stories are accurate, they were very spiritual and they had a connection to the spirit world and knew how to manipulate energy, frequency,
mm,
and all of this stuff, and it's all connected. And I think that
mm.
if modern ufology could kind of connect those things and get more people on board with the consciousness and spiritual side, we could discover a lot more about what's really going on. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think they do know how to do this. I think they do know how to work UFO technology, and they do know that it's out there. This is what's coming to light now with disclosure, is that we are having things stepping forward, like the footage that was released last year by the Navy, by the US. Yeah. And we had that UFO that they followed right along the water. And then we had Donald Trump that came out with the Space Force again. And, there's something going on that hasn't been disclosed to humanity for a long time, but it's been there. But they haven't had the 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 nerve to say it, to admit it to us, because they don't want us to know the truth. Because if we know the truth, everything will collapse.
Now, do you think these Anunnaki, these space brothers, do you think they're still alive out there today, possibly
Yes,
even pulling strings somewhere along the lines?
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes,
And do you think that we
absolutely.
would possibly, they may possibly return or still are on the planet at times?
Mm, I think, I think if they would have returned, there would have been a very, very big presence to their arrival. Because when we look at the ancient texts itself, and we have some of the Hindu and Vedic texts, for instance, where they depicted these whole cities that were floating in the skies with many gods on, that kind of backs up to the Sumerian texts and tales of Anu's arrival when he came to the earth to see the creation. And there was a great big party and festival for his arrival. There was a 3 or 4 day festival on the earth that took place where the whole earth knew about it. So it would be a little bit like today if we were having Space Brothers return, that we knew that they were coming back with their celestial royal family. I'm sure the whole planet would know about it, and that there would be some kind of festival that took place, and we would record it in our books.
Do you think that there are actual human or physical bloodlines on this planet that are connected to the original, say, Sumerian kings list that are still in kind
Yes.
of power today? That these some of these families still are.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Some of the royal families that we have got, but there again, some of the common day people, all the people, in fact, every tribe of every nation.
So
We are Anunnaki hybrids. We are all Anunnaki hybrid, each and every one of us.
yeah, but what I'm saying is these, like I guess the elongated skull bloodline, the pure bloodlines that think they have a divine right
Oh
to rule.
yes,
The
yes,
these,
but they are hidden. You're not shown them. You see, what we have to remember is we have a planet that is under rulership and control by basically ET races. And there was a certain ET race that has been in rulership, as we know. The draconian rulership has been going on now since the takeover from the Roman Empire, which when Egypt fell, something changed. A draconian rulership came in and set in place and really shook the foundations on a very, very high elite level globally for control. So quite easily that could change.
Well, we're
And
experiencing.
yeah, and we are seeing it change. And this is what we are witnessing now. We are living through it. This is a change over from um, an old draconian empire. And it's kind of, in a way, we have stepped into a new world. In a way, the new world order that we've been hearing about for so long now, we have kind of stepped into it by force, if you like. We've been told about it for so long, but it's been going on for 3,000 years, you know? So it's been going on for a long time. It's been going on and it has to change back over. And for that to change back over, there has to be a whole breakdown of every single system and foundation
Yeah, and
and
that is
core.
that's what we're
And the
seeing now.
bloodlines, yeah. And the bloodlines are slowly we're finding out who they are and where they're from and who's ruling what empire. And slowly these people are, we're not seeing them anymore. They're scurrying away, hidden and not talked about. And I feel that they're going direct off planet. Some of them that they're not human. Some of them are ETs, and it is possible that some of them are being shifted off planet when their service for whatever is being
Well, it would
fulfilled.
make me completely happy if they all left the planet, all those elite scum.
Yeah, we need to change the management, right? Yeah,
Definitely. Now,
definitely.
to close out, I want to talk about what's happening a little bit right now with modern
Mm,
disclosure. I'd like to know how far do you think it's going to go as far as our government and media coming out and telling us? I mean, they've already done more than I thought I'd hear from our own government,
mm,
which is surprising. Although
mm,
I do not trust the information coming out. I don't know if it's accurate. I don't trust any of the videos, or I don't know what they're showing us, but it's interesting that now they're all of a sudden saying, yeah, aliens exist and UFOs,
mm,
but why? That's the question for me. Why
mm.
is the media and the government telling us this at this time? And I'd like to get your thoughts. Do you think that there's something that they know is going to happen in our future, or
Mm.
is it just inevitable? We're going to find out, and there's just no way that they're going to be able to hide it forever. So why not just come out with it? What are your thoughts?
I do believe that it is part of the earth itself. It has to do with. I believe that we've had evidence of a pole shift happening before. We've had here of a shift happening before. It kind of connects to the Anunnaki and the elites and the creation story as well. So we have old tales of the earth and the creation story and deluge. And I think it's kind of all connected. And that they knew this timeline. They knew that when things were going to shift again. But I feel almost as though there has been a collaboration between the governments of Earth and elites of Earth and these off planet foundations and forefathers of humanity so that that doesn't happen again. It's kind of, they learnt from their last mistake and they can do it differently this time so that they can have some kind of control over it. That kind of makes sense to the shift of the planet, and that they wanted to communicate with as many individuals on the planet as possible, which is why there has been an upsurge and increase in the last 20 years of people that have had contact with beings from other planets, other races, and beings that are residing here on this planet, you
Yeah.
know?
We definitely live in fascinating times, and you're right.
We do.
I've talked to plenty of new people who are having experiences, contact experiences. So I think there's definitely something kind of happening on a cosmic scale that we should keep an eye on, and it's just a feeling I've had for a long time. But Dolly, I want to thank you so much for coming on. That was fascinating information. Before
You
you
are
go,
welcome.
if people are interested in finding more about your work, what you do, what's the best place they can find you? Social media, website, stuff like that.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, but you can find me on forbiddenknowledge.com. I'm over there at Forbidden Knowledge TV. I've got a Raw Talk session series on there, so you can catch some of my interviews on there. And I've got a new YouTube channel. So yeah,
And your
I'm
YouTube
on
channel
there.
is
And I've
just your
got a
name?
website. Yeah, I've just started a new
Oh, great.
YouTube channel. 'Cause I've spent so long working for everybody else for many, many years. And now I've been given my own little floor and time to do my own thing at last.
Very good.
So yeah, and I've got a website which is spacelinktv.com. So we cover all anomalies and Mars stuff and the rover stuff and all the new stuff with the rover and anomalies and some interesting stuff over there.
Great. Well, Dolly, thank you so much for coming on. Fascinating
You're
stuff.
welcome.
And there's so much more we could cover, so we'll have to have you back on in the future.
Thank you so much. Let's have us back.
All right. And until next time, everyone else, have an excellent evening.